So the first question, and this is open to the panel, is please share that particular moment, because you have to have a moment in order for you to decide either to become a political strategist, to become a judge, to become an elected official, or a public figure. And I'll let either one of you take that question.
Oh, let's see, the moment. You know, I thought about...
Can everybody hear?
Can everybody hear?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't think there was a particular moment that I can just identify. It was an evolutionary process. You know, it began with encouragement from friends, the thinking it through. Is this something I can do? I don't know. This looks hard because I have to put myself out there, and I have to sell myself. Is this something I can do? And it took a while thinking about the whole process, and was it something I actually could accomplish? And built with the confidence. You know, you have to have that confidence to take the step from going to, I'm thinking about it, and it's something I may do, saying, yes, that's a big step. That's a leap of faith. And because you don't know what the outcome is going to be. You don't know if you're going to be successful in your campaign. But you have to believe you are, and you have to surround yourself with people who have that confidence in you that you can do it, and you go from there. So I think it was a process, but it's a process that I'm very glad that I made that decision way back when I did it. And my first run was actually for school board in the year 2000, and I lost that election. So I do know what it feels like to lose an election, but I'm glad I moved forward.
Like Connie, it is not so much a defining moment, although that moment actually did come when the opportunity was right. So leading up to the opportunity, I had been in media for many, many years and had covered the legislature, county commission, Mobile City Council, school board, you name it, throughout my career. I had also been a lobbyist at one point. So I had dealt with all different levels of government, and on the media side, you're always covering them, reporting on them, but inside, and Keeshia, you can probably relate to this, you're thinking, well, what would I have said? How would I handle that? Or I agree or I don't agree. So I spent a lot of time covering, but not being involved. I worked for former Mayor Mike Dow for a time, for about 3 years as his PR communications person. So I got a really up close and personal look at the administration side of city government. So my true defining opportunity moment came when the person who was in District 7 decided to run for mayor. And then it was an open seat. And I had thought about running before, had even been encouraged to run before, but my problem had always been, I need a job. I have to work. I can't, have this particular job and run for office. So anyway, everything, the stars kind of fell in line, and the seat was open, and I went in to tell my bosses at the time, who were Al Stokes and Mike Dow, that I'm going to run for office. I'm going to run for District 7. And they looked at me like I was crazy. Like I'd lost my mind. And I said, no, I'm going to do it. So anyway, I did. There were 6 other men in the race, and I managed to win without a runoff. And the rest is history, as it were. But I think a lot of it truly is that opportunity, and it comes at the weirdest times. Look at Governor Ivey. Suddenly she's the governor, and she's running for re-election now. Would she have done that had things not happened the way they did? Who knows? So be ready for opportunity, especially if you're interested. Be ready to take the opportunity when it presents itself and go forward. And like Connie said, you have to be prepared to put yourself out there, especially these days. It's even worse than 10, 12 years ago when we first ran for office. So just be prepared for that. Wear that flak jacket. Don't let things bother you. Don't take things personally, and just go forward. Some advice I got was do what's right and move on. Don't let it bother you. Just do what's right. So that's what I was trying to do.
Now, Judge Thomason, I know that you're about to answer this question. If you guys don't know, to become judge of what she does, she had to be appointed, and she was appointed by former Governor Bob Riley. And so, how did that process work, and what was that moment when you said, okay, Governor, I'll do it?
Both of those questions really go hand in hand. I'm not sure that there was an exact moment either, but I will say this, a little bit of a different take from my perspective. I'm not a person, I never wanted to be a judge. I didn't grow up wanting to be a lawyer even. And when I was a lawyer, I loved being a lawyer. I never thought about being a judge. I was happy doing what I was doing. But what happens sometimes is people do have a goal or an aspiration to be something in political office, whatever it is. So don't let my story change your focus about that, because that's a great aspiration. For me, it was a little bit different in that in what I was doing, I became very passionate about. And in the law, when I was working with family law, I saw a need. And that's what drove me to change my mind about what I was doing and do something else, because no one else was doing something about it. So your story may be one or the other, but whatever it is, you can still pursue it in the same avenue. Strangely, I have been in this position now almost 12 years, and I've told people all along that I will retire from this job. I absolutely love what I do. And when I agreed to speak, I was just a judge who had been appointed by Governor Riley and was practicing, or was on the bench in Baldwin County. In the last week, I have announced my candidacy for a statewide race on the Court of Civil Appeals. Now, why do I tell you that now? Not to get your vote, I promise. I tell you that because when I was asked to speak, that's not something that I had committed to do. I have been encouraged over the past several years to seek this office because there's a need. And I've turned it down in the past. I've said, no, that's not something, twice actually, that I would be interested in. And this last year, a year ago, when my good friend Terry Thomas, who's here, Terry, raise your hand so they know who I'm talking to. Terry sits on the Court of Civil Appeals. And when she called and said, we really have a need for your skill set here. There's not anybody on this court that has experience and background in family law. That's your heart and that's your passion. There are new laws coming down this year in family law that are going to change the face of family law in Alabama. That was my window of opportunity. And that's when I realized that there's a critical need for my skill set. And that's something I'm passionate about and have a heart for. Everybody in this room has a heart or a passion for something. So my suggestion to you, in line with how I got where I am, is just to tap into that. Find what your passion is, and then either wait for that opportunity or find a place to use it now and go for it. Make that opportunity if you need to. Back in 2002, I ran for this position and I lost. There's a lot to be said about running a race when you're defeated. You certainly don't get cocky the next time, I will assure you of that. But what happened was 4 years later, a position opened up mid-election cycle. It was going to be an appointment. And I knew it was coming far enough in advance that I went to work. Because at that point, I didn't have any arrogance, I didn't have any confidence. Well, I had confidence, but you know what I mean. I knew that I was only going to get that if I worked harder than the other person. So that was my goal. Everybody was qualified, so I felt like my hard work might help me win. So I started figuring out what it was going to take, how much work and what it was going to take to get Bob Riley to appoint me. So I started talking to everyone I knew in that area, everyone I knew in Montgomery, everyone I knew who was connected to Bob Riley. Thankfully, he was a very accessible governor. I got to be in front of him an awful lot. In my last campaign, I met some people that I called and I said, you know, tell me what would be the best way to do this. I just did my research. I did my homework. Back then, I was told that one of the best ways to get an appointment for a position was to outpaper the opposition. So I didn't know how true that was, but I figured it couldn't hurt. So early on, I went to everybody that was anybody in the community, and I said, I know you don't know me very well, and I'll tell you, it's hard. It's hard to sit down in front of somebody you don't know very well. Say, but I will answer any question you have. I want you to get to know me because I want you to write a letter to the governor of the state endorsing me for this appointment. And I had well over 200 letters from people all over my community, including neighbors and friends and family members, to Governor Riley's office. So 9 candidates put their name in the hat, filled out the application. I continued to work nonstop from the minute I knew there would be a position until the day I went up to Montgomery to interview. I went up confident, but not arrogant. I had met with Governor Riley's chief legal advisor, Ken Walls, before. He was a teddy bear when I met with him. Come on in, have coffee, let's chat. When I went up for the interview, he was. Later, I'm driving back from the courthouse. I'll never forget, I know exactly where I was talking about your moment. My phone rings, I pick up my cell phone. Hey, Michelle, this is Bob Riley. I pulled the car over, needless to say. And we talked for about 10 minutes, and the most exciting moment I would say of my life. So the appointment process I've run since then, I run an election, and I'll talk about that a little bit, losing and winning. But if you have any interest in getting appointed to a position, those usually fall in between cycles. That's what I would say. Start as soon as you know about it, commit to it, do your homework, and work as hard as you can work.
And as you pass the microphone to Candace, because she's going to give you a different point of view, she's the one that is helping people to get to the positions that we want. Tell us about your world, and again, what made you decide to do the behind-the-scenes work for the political arena?
For me, I always knew I wanted to be involved in political communications as a career path, and I don't think when I was younger and in college, I don't think I really knew what that meant. There weren't so many television shows that portrayed political consultants like there are now, and it just was kind of a foreign world. But I knew I wanted to be involved. I thought maybe on the news side, and quickly realized that was not the place for me, because I really wanted to be making a difference. I really wanted to be impacting a political environment, a political scene, and so I quickly realized that I needed to be on the other side of the news world. I knew that much, and started doing some research and figuring out what that industry looked like. And you know, it took me a few years to get to a place where I was getting I was in the field and working to get the experience that I really wanted and needed. But it's a business that we always say as operatives, we talk about how it gets in your blood. And it's really amazing. We build whole organizations and businesses around a candidate, and you have a finite amount of time to achieve a goal. And at the end of that finite amount of time, you know, you give it all to the voters and let them decide. And so you have there's a measurement of your work and of the work of the candidate, and there's a lot of, every day is different. There's a lot of moving parts, and you know, all those moving parts are so fascinating to me. And so I really loved the industry when I started working in it, and I just worked hard to grow and grow my business and grow in the field. And I'm always learning. Every campaign is the same, but with every campaign or every set of clients, every cycle, the technology changes, and it's a fast-paced industry, and it's just really it's an awesome business to work in.
Okay, now Shelley, I think, mentioned that she's ran over 30 campaigns. Can you kind of just real briefly just tell us what you just worked on?
Sure. I ran Mayor Sandy Simpson's re-election campaign.
And if for anyone who has questions about, you know, what was that strategy, because that was a big talked about race, not only here in Mobile, but statewide. You guys can ask questions, and we'll get back to that just a little bit later. Thank you, Candace. Okay, so this is a women's conference, so we're going to get down to some of the nitty-gritty about women versus men when it comes to the political arena. So the next question is, please describe the women to men ratio in your field, and what do you think? Do you think it's a good representation? Why or why not?
I guess women in elected office, period. If you look at national politics, in Congress, there's about 18% of the members of Congress that are women. In the U.S. Senate, about I think 21 out of the 100 members. There are only 6 female governors throughout our country. And of course, here in Mobile County, it's a bit of an enigma on our county commission, because, you know, we have the majority on the commission. Commissioner Lecco is in the back, but with the 3 commissioners, 2 are women. And that's very, very unusual. When you look throughout the state at all of the county commissions, I would say that the ratio of women to men is certainly much less than that. I think we're probably about somewhere between 15 to 20% of the women, of the members of the commissions are women. And so I go to conferences, I look around, and it's just a room full of men, with a few women speckled here and there. And so obviously we have a long way to go in this community, in this state, in this country. And I think when you consider the fact that more than half of the population of this country is women, obviously there's a need for a lot more women to step up. I know it's a big decision, when you look at how many of us were raised, our social mores back in the 60s and 70s. When I grew up, it was much more defined for women, to play the more subordinate roles and to be less assertive than men in most occupations. The roles were it's different than today, I think. Maybe there's still a lot of change that needs to take place, but back then, that's how we grew up, with that mindset. So women I can't name anybody in my community as a teenager and even as a young college student. I can't tell you there were any women in political office. Nobody that I could look to, or any young girls could look to as role models. So, I think that times have changed, but they need to change more, and we need more women to take on those assertive leadership roles. And I'm hoping, and I know a lot of you raised your hands today, and I'm excited about that because we need the perspective of women in public office. And women are different. I'm not here to bash any of the men. I've served over the years with a lot of men. When I first was elected to the city council back in 2001, it was me and 6 men. And when I think back of how, sitting in meetings, and these men, they're very confident, very assertive, and they talk. And I would sit there, and I got to the point I'm thinking, I can't be a shrinking violet here. I need to get my opinions and my views, and they need to hear me. And so I got to the point where I would speak out, and sometimes even interrupt. And that's the only way I could be heard. And it became a bit of a pattern for me. I get home and my husband's like, why are you always interrupting me? But, not aggressive, but assertive. And there's a difference there. And I think we have to, when we get into these roles, I think we have to look at not changing our behavior, but modifying in such a way that we compete on that same level. So,
does anyone else want to answer that question?
What Connie said, working with men, is so true because men are very loud and they tend to be more aggressive. And at times, it's like they are all so loud and all talking at the same time that you're sitting over here going, I wish they would just shut up and let me speak, As president of the council, I have 1 woman and 5 men. So what I've learned to do with this group to try to keep everybody from talking at the same time and interrupting everybody is I'll say, stop right now. Sometimes I promise you I feel like I'm a kindergarten teacher or something like that, because in order for everyone to be heard, you have to respect each other enough to stop and listen. And we've gotten away from a lot of that because everybody's emotions get real high and they're high-strung and they want to get, their ideas out or their suggestions or whatever it is. So someone with, a female is hard to hear sometimes. So we do have to be a little bit more aggressive. Now, when you say aggressive, what do all the men think that is? So for women, it's harder. We are different, we think a little bit differently, we have different ideas on how to do things, and women work well together. We can come together and get things done a lot easier because I think our egos are not as large as a lot of our male counterparts, so I think a lot of times it's easier for us to work together and solve problems. City Council, Connie was the only woman for a while. Bess has been the only woman for a while. We've had 2 women off and on for a while on the City Council, and there were 7 of us. And we changed the form of government in 1985. So even at the local level, we still are very underrepresented in government. Same thing on the school board. There's not even a woman on the school board right now. So women do need to step up. And I hear all of you going, but. You know, you've got a family, you've got a job, you've got this, you've got that, and I understand that. When I first told my husband I wanted to run for office, I thought he was going to have a stroke. He says, what? I'm like, yeah. I don't have any children. We only have animals, so that helps. But still, I'm still expected to come home and do these things like I know all of you are. And it has to get to the point where what I want to do, my job, you know, my career, my dreams really have to be as important as yours. And part of that dream is to be in elected office because I have a voice and I have ideas and I have skill sets and I want to use those. So eventually, Todd became used to being called Mr. Gregory, even though I go by my maiden name. His last name is Baldwin, so he got used to being Mr. Gregory. He even calls himself the first man now, so he's gotten used to it. You know, it just took him a while, but I think these days, Connie and I grew up in the 60s and 70s, you all are younger, so I think men are learning, they are evolving, you know, bless their little hearts, they are evolving. Sorry, Sean.
It's okay.
He's married to Devin, so you know he has to be involved. So, but it is changing for the better, so I would encourage you all to consider this as something you can do moving forward because we need your voices, we need your ideas, local, state, and national levels.
A little different perspective. I'm not sure this is on. Can y'all see? I know that any of you in here could aspire to be on the city council or the county commission or a legislator or a governor or the president of the United States for that matter. If you want to be a judge, you gotta have a law degree. So my position is a little bit different, but I want to tell y'all some good statistics. You were asking about the ratio. Let's start top down. So 3 out of 9 of the justices are women, 33%. Nationally, that's the same ratio we have in this country of female judges nationally. At the federal level, 33%, which is higher than anywhere else in the world, in America. So first of all, we're in a good place in America. We're higher than anywhere else. 33% not so great, but still. Get down a little bit closer to home. The percentage of female judges in the United States, that's at the federal level. At female judges in the country, female lawyers in the country, the ratio is 65-35, so a little bit higher. Female lawyers who will aspire to be judges, some of them will aspire to be judges. But in law schools, it's almost 50-50 now with women law students. So either that means that there's going to be an equal number of women who aspire to be judges, or it means that a lot there, and I'm not sure how long the statistics have been close to 50-50 in law school. It wasn't that far off when I was there years ago. But it may be that women are just choosing to do different things with their law degrees than be judges. But the number of judges in this country has been on the increase steadily, and especially in Alabama, we recently lost the first female the first female justice on the Supreme Court. Janie Shores just died about 2 weeks ago, and in Alabama, she took that position in 1974. We had a female justice on the Supreme Court in this state. Phyllis Nesbitt, who was the first female trial lawyer in Baldwin County, took that position in 1976. She started running for office in 1959, running for the mayor of Daphne. So we're in a place in Mobile and Baldwin County in this region and in Alabama where the number of women in those positions is on the increase. And I think when you start in positions where you have a woman governor, where you have women that are seeking office in higher positions, that there's a great trickle-down effect. I think we're going to see more school board. I think we're going to see more even small county elections where women are putting their name in the hat. I think what the result is that men are seeing that there's really, and the communities are seeing, that there's not the bias that they thought there was, or there was not that difference, so there shouldn't be a bias. So I think it's just a matter of us having to choose. We have to choose. That's what we want to do, and break through those barriers. That's something Terry's going to talk about at lunch, just breaking through that glass ceiling. But I'll tell you, I have honestly not seen it in my practice of law or in my position as a judge. It's just not been present, and I think it's definitely getting better every single day.
Okay, so let's get down to the dirt. Some people don't run for office or accept appointed positions because of things that might come up from the past. You know, because news will take it and just drag it into the ground. Let's not on these people. But so how do you handle? This is for the entire panel. What happens when the skeletons come out of the closet? And Candace, when you have a candidate and the skeletons and the surprises come out of the closet, what do you do? And is that and is that something that deters people from running? Because I know, I'm gonna tell you right now, you will never see me running. Ever. Oh, there's some bones in there. There's some bones. Lots of bones.
It's a legitimate concern. It's something that everyone has to think about before they make the decision to run for office. Something that we as consultants talk to potential candidates about. We've all made mistakes, and I think that the fear of those mistakes just getting, told out loud to the general public is probably the worst part of that. Now, of course, if you got, I always say that there's no just definite, like, we can't overcome this as long as you haven't murdered someone or, there are some things that obviously common sense would tell you is probably not a great idea to run for office if you don't want to have to live through that. But for the most part, everybody makes mistakes, and the voters and the general public understand that to an extent. But what they won't accept is lying and cheating and doing everything you can to prevent them from knowing something about you, and in some cases, burying some sort of information about you. That makes voters think, well, what else is there, right? What else is there? So it's always important. You got to think about what weaknesses do I have, and it may not be a skeleton. It just may be a weakness. It may have been, a tough time when you were young and just came out of school and you ended up having to file for bankruptcy. Okay, well, that's something that a lot of voters can relate to, right? But you gotta sit down and think through those things, and you gotta talk with your campaign team about those things, and you gotta have a plan to deal with them. That doesn't mean that stuff won't pop up that you don't expect, and it doesn't mean that people won't make things up. But as long as you work to establish a relationship with the voters, and as long as you are willing to be upfront and honest, as soon as Damage Control 101, just address it head on. Address it head on, be honest, and you have the best shot at working through it. I think when people have the immediate tendency to want to just run from their mistakes, run from something that, a weakness or something that just, a problem, something that may reflect poorly on them, immediately you just want to run from it and hide from it and make it go away. And the only way to do that is to address it head on and let the news cycle play out.
No one else wants to take, okay, well, we'll move on. Did you want to, okay. Well, that segues into social media. Social media can be a good tool and it can be a bad tool. And when a person is running for an office or somebody knows that someone is up for an appointment, people can get on social media and spread lies. And people are now starting to take social media as fact. How do you deal with that? How do you come out and just say, that's not true? And is it like you're on a hamster on a Ferris wheel, just spinning, 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 and people will believe whatever they want to believe?
Yeah, I'll start with that one too. A couple of things on that. The first is that we always advise our clients, if you're going to run for office, or if you are running for office, you want to immediately establish a relationship with your followers and your supporters and on social media. So you establish a relationship, a working relationship. You let them get to know you as a candidate, let them see a little bit about you as a person, so that they start to relate to you and you build that digital relationship with these followers. And when you've been working diligently to build that relationship, if something comes up, if someone has something that they want to make up, or they're going to say something negative about you on social media, you're turning to and asking them to believe you because they've seen who you are to that point, and they've built this digital relationship with you at that point. I think the biggest mistake that people make is not developing that relationship on social media, and then when something hits the fan, they go to social media to try to set the record straight. And at that point, you're asking these people to trust you, and you haven't established any sort of basis for that trust. So that's the first thing on social media. And the other thing that I'll just say is that we always advise our clients to not let their walls close in on them. Social media is a place where bullies thrive. I mean, it's just like going back to high school. And the reality is, though, on social media, it can feel like when someone posts something and 25 people share it, and there may be 500 collective likes to this one topic. It can feel like this is getting out of control, and everybody thinks it, everybody knows about it. And so we always try to keep things in perspective. Haters are going to hate on social media, right? But just because 500 people liked it doesn't mean that all 60,000, 100,000, 150,000 voters in your district know anything about it. And so you can't ever overreact, right? You've got to keep things in perspective. Don't let your walls close in on you. And then utilize the community that you build and the tools that are available on social media to set the record straight when you need to.
Well said. I think that social media is definitely a double-edged sword for people serving in public office. It's a great tool to get information out. You can use your Facebook page to spread information. We don't have a daily newspaper anymore, so a lot of times it's hard to get information out to people, to let people know what events are going on and what's happening in government, because you don't always get the story immediately of what's happening in our meetings or what's being said or what actions are being taken. So it's a great tool in that respect. But I think Candace is absolutely right. It's a wonderful way to have a relationship with your voters and let them see that you're engaged, you're involved. You want them to be engaged as well. But on the other hand, as she said, it's also a place for bullies to reside. And especially when you're an elected official, you're doing the very best that you can. You're making decisions based on facts. And the public
to change and do it instead, then you have to have a reason for doing it. And be sure to explain, well, things changed. I got new information, I did some research, and now I know that I need to do this. When I said I would never do it, I fully believed that at the time, but things changed, and I had to change. And don't be afraid of it. That's like Candace is saying, own up to it. It was what you believed at the time, you were very much opposed or in favor of it, but things change, and you had to change because it was the right thing to do.
Anyone else? Did you want to say something?
I would echo that. Just be wary of any candidate for public office at any level of government who promises specific things, because it's very, very difficult when you can't do it alone. That's what you hear people and you think, well, they can do that by themselves. Nobody can do anything alone. You have to have a consensus, or at least enough votes on whatever government body you're serving on to be able to get things done. I've never made promises, campaign promises per se to anybody, because of my fear that not being able to keep those promises. And that's when you're running for public office, you want to engender trust. You want people to learn to trust you. And if you've made promises that you don't keep, they're not going to trust you anymore. Now, the promise you can make is, I'm going to do my very best to make good things happen. I promise you I will work hard. I promise you that I will make sure I know all the facts, and I will make informed decisions, and I will do my best. And people, they'll respect that. And if when you develop that level of trust with your constituents, and things happen, and they don't always have, like I said, they don't always have the facts, but they know you, and they know the kind of person you are, the kind of representative you are, and when whatever decision you make, they're thinking, well, obviously there's a good reason for that. There were things that maybe I didn't understand that Commissioner Hudson, she knew those things, and that's why she voted the way she did. That's the kind of relationship that you want to have with your constituents, and so I think that's all I had to add.
Okay, we'll take about 2 or 3 questions. Okay, well, not very enough. I've got a lot of people. We'll start with you and the graduate. Do you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Sarah. I'm new to this area. I just have a very nuts and bolts question. If one wanted to find out like the calendar or when the school board, the city council was meeting, is that information on the city's website, or like how would you find that information? Are you aware that that is
Yeah, those schedules are typically on the government entities' websites.
like the city of Bermuda's website?
You can also get all of our email addresses and cell phones.
Since I do go to the site and I found the qualifications to run for city council, and they're just like have a birth certificate or something like that. That's it. Like that's basic or basic.
You know, $150.
Or $150, yes.
Driver's license at your end.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Schmidt Brock. I lived in Mobile County for about 8 years in Mobile. I live in your district in West Mobile. And I've been in Baldwin County for 10 years now. All of my little block questions were answered by the panel, so thank you. But for those folks who do, who are in that position where I have to have an income on that, I have to support my family, but I want to run, what's that transition really look like, and how do you overcome that?
Some very honest conversations with your employer is the starting point, because if you intend to keep that job and run and hopefully be elected, they have to be on board. If it's a part-time job, if it's a full-time job, you still have to run for office, and they're going to know something's up. So either way, depending on if it's a part-time job and you intend to keep working and then hold that elected office, they have to agree to let you go and do. And then, of course, if it's a full-time job and you need to be campaigning while you're working, they have to allow you the time to campaign, or you have to quit. There's only so many decisions. But hopefully they will understand. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's difficult. Because when you were working for someone, they want you working for them. You're on their dime, and it's hard for many employers out there to give you time to do public service at the same time.
Yes.
I'm here not necessarily to be a city official, but to be something simple like the president of my homeowners association. Because I feel like
That's even harder.
I feel like there's some things that need to be done. So I know in order to get a vote, we have to be persuasive, we have to be elected. So what are your tips in order to be that for that vote, to trust you, to have that vote?
Most homeowners associations are looking for people to be the president. I don't know that it's going to be that tough for you to get the spot. And once you get it, probably going to wish you did.
I think just your interest, your willingness, your network with the people in the neighborhood, they get to know you, and then communicate. These neighborhoods have a newsletter, information goes out. If you want to work your way up, you can take over the newsletter, or you can become the treasurer. But like Gina said, most neighborhoods are looking for people who are willing to spend their time. So it's just a matter of spending your time with them.
And I think one thing we've seen recently in politics in Alabama, and I think it works whether you are President of the United States or you're running for your local homeowners. If people that are going to vote for you think you're running for that position for your personal benefit or personal gain or personal interest, then either they're not going to vote for you to start with, or they're going to vote for you and they're going to be disappointed in you. So if, like you just said, you see some things that need to be changed, and if your vision is that that change is going to affect a community of people, then you just need to find a way to relay that vision to that community. And when they see that that vision that you have is their same vision, then they'll vote for you.
We buy media and campaigns because candidates cannot physically reach every single voter one-on-one. But the most meaningful interaction that any candidate can make is a personal interaction with the voter, one-on-one interaction. So if you want to run for your homeowners association, go door to door and introduce yourself to every single person and tell them why. And you probably won't have competition that does that.
Seriously, we're taking nominations this Saturday in my Okay, last two questions, because I hear the next room breaking up, and we'll start with you, and then we'll end with you.
Well, let's just real quick, I'm Carolyn, ran the Eastern Shore Chamber of Commerce for 18 years, and thank you for all of the work that you guys do. But I remember there was some percentage of the fact of how many women registered voters there are over men, and that just to maybe say something about the fact that if they do run, there's a lot of women, more women that vote than men vote. So I don't know if y'all know those statistics, but it was like about 8 years ago, the percentage was higher of women who were registered to vote, and the percentage was higher of people who voted that were women. So you got to wake up. It's time to do this.
Okay, and last question.
I just wanted to draw the distinction because what you were just talking about, having that vision, and then how to not make campaign promises or like it's kind of opposing in a way. How do you portray a vision also, but not oversell your ability to make that vision into reality? You know, but it's important to sell it too.
Yeah, I didn't comment on that topic, but I would say I may take a little bit different of approach, maybe because I can. But you know, certainly always reserve the right to change your mind. But voters do want to know that you understand their concerns and that you have a plan, or at least that you have the willingness to look into those concerns and to find a feasible solution. And so talking about, and you know, also voters want to see that you're a leader, and leaders have to cast visions. A leader has to cast a long and short-term vision, and you got to be able to do that for voters to buy into you as a candidate. But it doesn't mean, I think what these ladies are saying is, you know, don't tell the voters that you're going to be able to, you know, get a part within the next 6 months whenever you need to negotiate that with other legislators that you have to, you know, that you need the votes from. So I think it's more of a don't make direct promises that you don't know that you could keep, but do talk about what your vision is. Talk about, for the mayor. At first, in 2013, he would go around and he'd tell people, you know, I feel like you've got a castable vision, and I think, you know, making the city of Mobile the safest, most business and family-friendly city in America by 2020 is a worthy goal. And of course, those of us who are as consultants are going, okay, that is a huge mouthful. Can we find a way to narrow that down? But he was convicted, and he ignored us and he kept saying it because he was convicted. That was his vision. And casting a bold vision doesn't mean you're promising the world, but it does mean that everything you're doing is working towards that vision, and everybody understands what it is that you're working towards. And that is the difference between the promises.
Yeah, I mean, vision can be, if you want to get a little more specific, you know, things for children, activities for children and things to do. I mean, vision is a little bit more wider, like an umbrella. As long as you're not saying, I'm going to build a park right here in your neighborhood, and I'm going to build a pool over here, and we're going to resurface all of these streets, not knowing if you're going to be able to do it or not. So the vision is more that umbrella approach for the areas that you're interested in, and you know that your constituents are interested in and concerned about. So you're understanding what they want and what they need without over-promising that you're going to do something. Now, doesn't mean you can't start saving that discretionary money or planning ahead of your capital improvement program to make that happen, and also deal with your constituents and say, what are your priorities? I want to make sure that I align with you because you elected me to represent you, and I want to make sure that I know what your priorities are. So then you can say, I heard what Fred Richardson is great. I heard from my constituents, and that's what we're going to do, and that's all I'm going to do. So there are ways to do it, you know, to have that vision and make some promises, but they need to be honored.
Let's give a round of applause for